Welcome to the last session on my personal finance. This is session number 9, and this is going to be on 360-degree financial planning. And I'm going to use my financial plan without numbers as a case, as a template for you to explain what I'm talking about. And you can create your own kind of template, whatever works for you. And at some point, maybe Bharosa Club will offer tools which help you do this as well. Before we get started on this, at least for me, a key question is, why do I need a financial plan? I know I have enough money for myself. My son does not need to inherit money, so we are quite okay. In my case, I have a goal where I could say create a foundation to work on universal prosperity, which I would fund with at least 10 million US dollars. So I should be in a position where I can do that comfortably without batting an eyelid. And I'm not really there as yet. So maybe I will get there. So one of my goals as I do my financial planning is to continue to maximize my wealth or try and create more wealth with the purpose of ultimately setting up this foundation, right? So if you are in the fortunate position of having enough wealth, then this kind of question comes up at what are you creating more wealth for? With that, I will kind of share my screen and take you to start with through a poem which will show you a little more of what I'm talking about. Okay, so here is the poem. So this poem was written by Mario Andrade, who lived from 1893 to 1945. He was a poet, novelist, essayist, and musicologist. He was one of the founders of Brazilian modernism. And it says, "My soul has a hat. I counted my years and realized that I have less time to live by than I have lived so far. I feel like a child who won a pack of candles. At first, he ate them with pleasure, but when candy, sorry, not candles. At first, he ate them with pleasure, but when he realized that there was little left, he began to taste them intensely. I have no time for endless meetings where the statutes, rules, procedures, and internal regulations are discussed, knowing that nothing will be done. I no longer have the patience to stand absurd people who, despite their chronological age, have not grown up. My time is too short. I want the essence. My spirit is in a hurry. I do not have much candy in the package anymore. I want to live next to humans, very realistic people who know how to laugh at their mistakes, who are not inflated by their own traps, and who take responsibility for their actions. In this way, human dignity is defended and we live in truth and honesty. It is the essentials that make life useful. I want to surround myself with people who know how to touch the hearts of those whom the hard strokes of life have learned to grow with sweet touches of the soul. Yes, I'm in a hurry. I'm in a hurry to live with the intensity that only maturity can give. I do not intend to waste any of the remaining desserts. I'm sure they will be exquisite, much more than those eaten so far. My goal is to reach the end satisfied and at peace with my loved ones and my conscience. We have 2 lives, and the second begins when you realize you have only one." So this is a poem that inspires me a lot. The thoughts in this poem and the dream of nudging the world closer to universal prosperity are what keep me going and will keep me going for whatever time I have left on this planet. So anyway, enough of philosophy and stuff like that. So let's get down to the hard tacks of financial planning. So let me first start with the base data. So in my case, since I'm using US dollars and I have assets in US dollars and Indian rupees, and I'm going to do my plan in US dollars, so I need the exchange rate, which on January 1, 2020 was around 71.3065. And what I then calculate, once I put in the numbers, this template will find out my not liquid net worth, my liquid net worth, and my total liquid net worth, and what is the not liquid percentage. It will also categorize in low, high, and very high what my thing is, and how much do I have in India and how much do I have in the US. So here is the base data for that. So as you can see, I just have 18 assets. Okay. And these are the kind of asset descriptions, and some are like, this is my bank account, which is in a joint name with me and my wife, Anita. So there are two accounts, one where she's the first holder and I'm the second holder, and one where I'm the first holder and second holder. So even including all that, so ICICI, Fidelity, there are some IRA accounts, there are some accounts where I hold treasury bills with the US government, mutual funds. I still have those tax saver funds, which I talked about in the earlier sections. I have stocks, and then these are some of my unlisted startup investments. So I have an investment in Echo, a company that I started in 2006. And then I have shares of Bharosa. Then my brother has a VC firm, so I have a small holding there. And I have a little bit of a stake in a Santa Monica apartment that my son and I co-own. And along with my son, who invested in Apollo, a VC fund that he worked for. So I have a little bit of a stake in that. So all said and done, I have just these 18 assets. So you can see that this is very simple. And then I've classified them into the number of holdings I have in each of those accounts. So even there, you can see that the number of holdings I have is not more than 35. And I have seen people with much, much, much smaller net worths, maybe 5 lakh rupees. That is like less than $10,000. But they have distributed it over 35, 40 holdings, right? So my net worth is much larger, but it's there only in 35 holdings. Now, then I've put it as a type, whether it's liquid or not liquid, and what's the kind of category, and what's the risk, and where is it located, and what's the local currency, what's the US dollar equivalent, and what are the remarks, and where do I have a nominee and all these, and some I had to change my nominee and all that. And then this is very interesting. I actually calculated on each of these what was my realized income in this particular account, and what was my unrealized income, and what was my total income, right? So often people miss out this notion of unrealized income, right? So they take realized income, like say, suppose I have invested in something, I get dividends. So that comes as cash into my account. But they don't take unrealized income, right? So if my stock goes up, then that is very much income, but they don't take that. So then they say, oh, earlier when I was getting a salary, I used to get so much take home, and now I'm getting all these dividends and things like that. So they want to have annuities and they want to have dividends. And in my opinion, that's quite a bit of quite a mistake. And then, so I take realized and unrealized, and I get total income, and then I get my total spending, right? Which I've done in each account, right? In this stuff. So since my credit cards and all are all linked into my bank accounts or my Fidelity accounts, or whatever, so essentially, if I just am able to track the debits in those accounts, I'm able to actually get my entire spending, right? So now that I have this base data, I can do projections. So I say, okay, my current age is 63. I want to plan till the age of 90. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm going to die at 90. I may die much earlier, maybe I'll die later, but this is for planning purposes. So I need to project for 27 years. Now, my income percentage of the corpus, that is my entire this thing, I've taken it as 7%. And then I wanted to say that I want to increase my spending, because one of the things I realized when I did this whole planning was that I was spending too little, so I could actually go for more holidays and things like that. But of course, COVID has put a big spanner in the works to increase spending, but it has also reduced my income and my assets. So maybe, next year, post-COVID, when I do the plan, we'll see what it shows. But anyway, so the spending increased post-cap. So I said, okay, I can spend, I can increase my spending by 10% till I hit my spending cap, which I put at 250,000 US dollars a year. After that, I'm saying that the spending will increase by 3% because we're talking about inflation. I will probably get an inheritance at some point in time from my mother-in-law. So I've again factored that in 2028. This thing of donating the $10 million to create a trust, that I factored in 2030, and I may want to move into a senior living facility at some point in time. So I want to budget for that. So then I can do this projections, and it's very simple exercise. Tell this thing, saying what is my current corpus, because I've taken a 7% income. So this is going to be my income. This is my spending. And then if I take my corpus and plus income, less spending, that will be my corpus for the next year, and so on and so forth. And I'll get my projections, right? So quite simple. And then there is this thing called the income to spend ratio. Now, this is a very interesting thing. So if I have a lot of income and I'm spending very little, okay, then my corpus is growing. Right now, I do want it to grow because I want to have that 10 million to donate and all that kind of stuff. But I can look at all these projections and say, should I be increasing my income to spend ratio? Okay. And if I do make that donation, then obviously my corpus is going to come down, and therefore my income is going to come down. And then we'll see what my income to spend ratio will end up being, right? The other is what I call the corpus cover ratio in years. So if I take my corpus and I say, okay, 2019, I have 27 years left. So I divide that corpus by, and if I take my spending, so here you can look at the formula. So it is B13, the corpus, I divided by B15, which is basically the spending. So my corpus can cover my spending for so many years, right? So these ratios, if you see them, it'll give you a lot of comfort as you do your 360-degree financial plan. Then I end up saying, what are the takeaways for me? When I did this in January 2020. So I'll do it again in January 20. So keep it simple. No startup investing, no donations, no complex investments. Will change at 75 if one gets there. Universal prosperity, connect with leading thinkers. Think about creating something like in India Thinks global disruptive innovation coach, which I've started doing. Increase diversification in US portfolio, explore personal capital, wealth fund, build algo, whatever. So there's some tasks there, and 100% small case in India, explore that. So I've been acting on all these. And this was something like New Year resolutions, which I had done in 2020. Then if I look at some of my holdings here, so I just did buy, sell, or hold kind of thing. And these were some possible buys that I had. And what would I do in terms of full or partial or whatever. Now these can be resolved, right? So at that point in time, I thought I will sell my eBay holdings in full. But as I've watched the progression of eBay, it's been very good through the pandemic. So I might change my mind. Okay, so you can take each of your existing holdings and do this buy, sell, or hold kind of thing. Okay, then we come to things like protection. So car insurance shifted to liability only, self-insuring other risks, medical top-up medical only, self-insuring other risks. So I have to do nothing else in there. Now, when I, next year, maybe in that particular year or the year after that, probably the year after that, I will have to explore Medicare. So then that will come in this protection area. And then this is the action plan that I can think of at this particular point. So in 2020, I wanted to take a minority role at Bharosa, evangelize India Thinks Global, disruptive innovation coaching. And then I said, maybe I'll explore this coach certification thing if that's going to help me, but probably not. And then beyond 2020, what are all the things? So I've looked at my US driving license, my passport, and like I talked about Medicare, then there is a little pension that I get from Citibank. So I need to do something about that because that may start in 2022 and so on. So that now I also have to make a decision as to where I want to settle down. Is it India or the USA? I'm not 100% sure at this time, but I've deferred that to 2025. And then in 2027, I will probably try to start taking Social Security because that's the last, at that point in time, if I'm still around, I'm 70 years old. And Anita will be 70 in 2030. So in a sense, I've got this whole action plan kind of laid out. So now I'm at peace. I don't have to worry about, and I will not run into the situation that my passport is suddenly expired or my driving license is suddenly expired or whatever, right? Though I'm living in 2 countries. Then there may be some custom stuff, which I don't have any, but your plan may have some. And then this last thing is death note. So before death, these are some of the things that I need to do. And after death checklist, there are also certain things which I've looked at. And one of the nice things that I found was that I can probably donate my body to teaching hospitals. Right? So even after death, my body might be useful. So there are various things that I thought about and things like that, and I've put them all down. So this is essentially what I call like a 360-degree financial plan, which I've done for myself. Your plan may be very different, but I would encourage you to do a plan because I have seen a lot of people, including my parents, who did this partially or whatever, but it's a good thing to do. It helps you while you're living and will certainly help your son or daughter or heirs or whoever, your wife, when you're no more. So thank you very much for listening to me. And that concludes this session on my personal finance.